right, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Saturday afternoon live stream for Week 14 of the 2025 fantasy football season, as we are 24 hours away from determining whether or not many of us are going to be making the fantasy football playoffs within our league, and some of you may be fighting for not only a playoff spot, but hopefully a bye week come Week 15. Hope you guys are doing well on this wonderful Saturday. This is the first live stream I've conducted here on the channel since Wednesday. Apologies for missing that Thursday live stream. Just wasn't feeling the best at that overall moment. But obviously that Thursday night football game didn't make me feel any better. With CeeDee Lamb going out with the concussion, subsequently, again, Jameson Williams nowhere to be found. George Pickens nowhere to be found. I mean, what an absolute disaster. But hey, if you have Jahmyr Gibbs, like I said on Tuesday, if there's any running backs that can show up on any given week and score 3 tutties and 30 plus fantasy points, it's Jonathan Taylor or Jahmyr Gibbs, and they continue to develop in that direction. Hope you guys are doing well. Again, over the course of today's live stream, we're answering any and all questions. So if you guys are going to ask a question, whether that be in the live chat and or via super chat in order to claim priority, all you have to do is include your scoring format. More context you provide, the easier it'll be for not only myself, but other members of the community to help answer your question. But let me know if you guys are playing in a standard league, half PPR league, full PPR league, 4-point or 6-point per passing touchdown. If you get any additional points for return yardage, anything of that nature of which you get additional points, I'd like to know, because it certainly does play an impact to the potential of my answers. Hope you guys are doing well. Now, like I do every single Saturday as we begin the live stream, I just wanted to go ahead and talk about a couple of the injuries that have been designated over the course of the last couple days, and yesterday's practice reports that designated a couple players out that, of course, I want to go ahead and talk about. I don't know where the heck did that's crazy. I literally had my tab open, and I guess I closed it accidentally. Okay, here we go. So I put together the injury report earlier today. Obviously, many of you are aware that players such as a Drake London are not going to be playing this week. Quite unfortunate. Hopefully, he'll be back by next week. I see somebody in the live chat said, thoughts on London coming back this season? Nathan Salazar, I don't expect that the Falcons are going to be competing for a playoff spot. So in order for him to come back, he's going to have to be at a very healthy position. Otherwise, I feel like they may just shut him down just to, avoid any sort of extension to the injury. I know he's dealing with a knee injury. If there's any way in which he could severely threaten an even greater injury to it, that would be my concern, to which they may shut him down. Otherwise, everybody's a competitor in this league. Everyone wants their game checks. Everyone wants to play. Everyone wants to go ahead and rack stats to get to the Pro Bowl. So hopefully he'll be able to return by next week at base minimum. If not, hopefully week 16 to at least give us a fighting chance. So, couple of the injuries that have, of course, been designated. For those of you guys who have picked up Bam Knight over the course of the last couple of weeks, besides the 3 consecutive games of 10 plus fantasy points, he's going to be able to probably continue that this week, as Amari DeMarcado and Trey Benson are out again for the Arizona Cardinals. Other Arizona Cardinals that are out, Greg Dortch sent to the injured reserve earlier today, and Marvin Harrison has been designated out as well. There is a reason why I have Michael Wilson as the thumbnail of today's episode. Is because we're all in on Michael Wilson, easily a top-tier wide receiver option this week, especially in the absence of Marvin Harrison. We have been demonstrated week over week as of late what it looks like in terms of an offense without Harrison active with Jacoby Brissett. And with Dortch not available out there, Weaver would be the next man up to theoretically take looks out of this overall offense, but I would anticipate a lot of the overall receptions that would typically go in the direction of a Dortch may just be checked down to Michael Carter. So if you're playing in a full PPR, desperate for a running back, I think Michael Carter could definitely service as someone that can come away with 5 to 7 receptions in this upcoming game. Other members of that, Arizona Cardinals team that are going to be out, Melton and DTD, one of their starting safeties, both going to be out. Nolan, one of their starting defensive linemen, that are going to be out as well. So just everything is in the direction of the Rams whooping ass. And that's why I have Blake Corum as a hidden gem this week, primarily because I think if they're going to deliver, quite a beatdown, there could be an opportunity in the second half for him to get a lot of run. Now, in terms of other players that are going to be missing, first and foremost, if I'm not mistaken, let me just confirm this. Okay, so there's a couple that are going to be out here and there that are obviously of more value, like Lane Johnson being out for another game. Carter, defensive lineman for the Eagles, being out another game, definitely significant. Going into that Monday night matchup, the expectation is that Hampton and Herbert should both be active, which is very promising. But again, I'm going to rank them a little bit lower than you may anticipate, considering I don't love the matchup as a whole. And of course, we don't know the overall workload exposure to what we're going to see from Hampton, even though he should be the vast majority of the workload taker of this backfield. Not too confident in the overall expansion of his usage. We'll have to wait and see. Because again, prior to him leaving due to injury, the guy was getting like 5 receptions per week. So if that exists within his scoreline in a full PPR, he should be started, but it's just a matter of, are they going to continue that on his first week back? Another piece of potential viable information in regards to the AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs not only have their left tackle out because of the broken wrist, but their right side of their offensive line, both right guard and right tackle, are both doubtful for tomorrow's game against Houston. Houston's pass rush is already a disaster. With both of your starting tackles out, expect for a lot of pass rush. And if I have the Houston Texans defense, I'm probably just rolling them anyway this week. In terms of other potential injuries, Sauce Gardner did not practice all week long, probably going to be out. Anything else of another substantial note, offensive line injuries. Conklin and Wyatt Teller, both starting offensive linemen for the Cleveland Browns, going to be out. Does not help their overall case, even though they are taking on the Tennessee Titans. Roman Dunze, as we know, is out. So, of course, there's a reason why I mentioned someone like Luther Burden yesterday. Outside of that, nothing omega notable. Nothing, like maybe Michael Mayer and, Dante Thornton for the Raiders, but are we really going to start Trey Tucker? I don't think so. Anyway, so that is going to cover some of the injuries. Again, there's a lot of other injuries out there, but nothing that I need to go ahead and immediately let everybody know about. So with that all taken into account and all that all delivered, let's go ahead and let's get into answering some of these questions y'all have sent in already via the super chat. We'll get to those in just a moment. Again, quick reminder, guys, I'll be back tomorrow morning live streaming on the channel. So if not able to get to your question in the live chat, hopefully I can answer your question via proxy of somebody else's question, or you can go ahead and swing on by tomorrow morning as we'll have up-to-date rankings for my top 36 running backs, wide receivers, top 16 tight ends and quarterbacks, and top 12 kickers and defenses for tomorrow. Of course, live streaming from 7 to 10 a.m. PST. Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's pop the YouTube chat on screen, and we'll begin with the first question of the day from TPD45. Says, how long do you think Lamb will be out? Well, considering he played on Thursday, there is a possibility in which he could clear the concussion protocol going into week 15. There's a possibility. Again, we have seen on very rare instances a wide receiver clear concussion protocol in less than 7 days. That one wide receiver has done it 2 years in a row. That's Marvin Harrison Jr. Otherwise, after I saw the concussion take place and the hand movement and the way that which was delivered, leads me to believe that he is more in jeopardy of missing week 15 than potentially playing, even with the additional 3 days off because of the Thursday game. But there's a possibility in which he could end up clearing protocol. We'll have to wait and see. But as it currently stands, I think that he's probably in jeopardy of missing week 15. So if you don't have him, of course, we'll pick up Ryan Flournoy in order to kind of somehow, some way recoup some of the value that we would theoretically lose with Lamb come the Tuesday waiver wires. As for your next question, also Lamar or Daniels at quarterback. As of this week, genuinely, I think I'd rather play Jaden Daniels. Lamar, again, against the Pittsburgh Steelers with Kyle Duggar out, them cutting Darius Slay. I think that secondary is in shambles. I just don't know if I want to risk it. I know it's not, conventional wisdom would tell me to play Lamar Jackson in this circumstance, but I think I'd genuinely rather just play Jaden Daniels here on his first week back, but in this circumstance has all of his weapons. Debo, McLaurin, Ertz. I'm thinking of a different team. So for me personally, I probably lean in the direction of a Jaden Daniels kind of play, because it's not like Lamar's dealing with ankle injury, hamstring injury. Jaden Daniels was just dealing with a dislocated left elbow, right? So he's still going to have the mobility. He's still going to have the rushing threat, which is everything for fantasy. Thank you. Carson Hughes, 3860, says it a question. Carson, thank you. Says in a full PPR, I need a wide receiver 2 and a flex between Emeka Ibuka, Zay Flowers, Ladd McConkey, and Devin Neal. Also, Houston's defense or Miami versus the Jets. I think both are fantastic, but like I mentioned earlier, considering the offensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs is in absolute shambles with injuries. Considering that alone, it makes me feel a little bit more confident in just rolling my Houston Texans defense there, even though they are taking on the Kansas City Chiefs offense that has been incredibly potent of late. And Miami is a little bit of a safer play overall. I personally would rather just play the Houston defense and then maybe just go look to pick up Kansas City's defense and play them next week, in week 16, maybe against Tennessee, or picking up the 49ers defense in preparation for next week as they take on Tennessee. So that's kind of be my thought process as to how I'd like to approach. But as of right now, I probably have Miami's defense 1 or 2 spots ahead of Houston, but again, it's very, very slight in terms of my overall projection. Now, as for your previous question, wide receiver 2 and flex, I think Emeka Egbuka has to play in this circumstance alongside a Lad McConkey. In a full PPR scoring format, if I could get a guarantee of a lot of receiving utilization in the direction of Devin Neal, if I could get a guarantee of a touchdown or something of that exchange to where I know he is going to get an influx of 5+ points from somewhere outside of the rushing category off yards, I'd feel a little bit more confident on the matter, but I just want to play my studs here. And I know that Emeka Egbuka has not played like a stud of late, but taking on that Saints, zone coverage, especially with his utilization in the slot position this most recent week, getting about 4 targets from the slot, very promising, to which hopefully he could also take advantage of the Alontae Taylor matchup. So I'd go Emeka and Lad there. I think the third best option in this circumstance is probably Neal and then Zay Flowers last. Thank you, Carson. Lou sends in a question, says, what's up, Andrew? Questions in the chat. Thank you, Lou. Hope you're doing well. This is full PPR double flex league. I have to win this week to make the playoffs. How's my lineup look? We've got Burrow, we've got Bucky Irving, Quinshon Judkins, Jamar Chase, JSN, Strange, Hampton, and Harvey. My bench consisting of Baker, Myers, Monungai, Schultz, Sutton, Vidal, and Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson has to start. So if I was in your position, I would likely be playing Michael Wilson over Hampton here. I don't want to take the risk. I know, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles most recently gave up a 250 rushing yard game to the Chicago Bears running attack, but the Chicago Bears running attack has been brutalizing many of teams over the course of the last couple weeks here. So it's not really a surprise there. I think Michael Wilson in a full PPR, genuinely could come away with 10 catches for 100 yards and easily a 20-point performance in his sleep this week. That is a genuine thought. So as of this moment, I'd probably play him over Hampton. As for Harvey, again, he's got so much touchdown upside against the third best matchup. Kind of have to leave him there, even though I really do like Jacoby Myers this week. But I think that's the only suggestion I would make. And I think you're in a really good spot to win this week, considering your roster is stacked top to bottom. I think you're in a really advantageous position here. Thank you, Lou. All right, Nathan Salazar sends in a question. Nathan, hope you're doing well, my man. Nathan says the following. Says, I have to start 2 in a full PPR. We've got Neal, Debo, Woody, Higgins, and Mitchell. Okay. Says one of them has to be a wide receiver. If I win, I clinch the first round bye, and I need it because Lamb might miss week 15 and Drake London as well. Okay. Says thoughts on, okay, yeah, so this is the entire context to that London question. Okay, so in your circumstance, if we're needing to play 2, one has to be a wide receiver. So I'm curious as to which Higgins we're talking about. I think we've had this conversation over the course of the last couple live streams, guys. In the future, which you do designate a Higgins within a question, you got to let me know if that's Jaden or T. Higgins. Because if that's T. Higgins, he's an auto start, and that's my wide receiver that I'm playing. And then I would probably end up pairing him up with, I'm assuming Mitchell is Keaton Mitchell, which I don't want to play. I think with Jaden Daniels back, I feel pretty comfortable with the idea of rolling with Deebo Samuel in this circumstance, especially considering like Deebo Samuel this season. If I go and I look up, let's see here. In a full PPR, I believe with Jaden Daniels there, he's had himself some pretty substantial performances. I understand that they've sometimes been in the absence of a Terry McLaurin as well, which obviously leads to a little bit more of an extended target opportunity share. But let me just see what we're talking about here. If we go and we look up Jaden Daniels. Okay, so Daniels played week 1, 2, 5, 6, and 9. So if we look at those games, week 1, 10 targets, 7 grabs. 2, 8 targets, 7 grabs. Then we have 5 and 6. Week 5 for Debo, 8 grabs for 96 yards on 11 targets. Week 6, 4 for 15. Nothing crazy, but again, one of those outlier performances. And then in week 9, had 5 catches for 41. I think ultimately across the board, just off of the utilization that we have seen between Debo and Jaden Daniels, I'd probably feel pretty comfortable going Debo there. Now, in the event in which this is Jaden Higgins, I'd probably lean away from it, and I just go like Neal and Debo. In the case of this is T. Higgins, again, I'm going T. Higgins and Debo Samuel. Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate that, my man. Best of luck, and let's hope we get that first round bye, brother. All right, James King 4577 sends out a question. James, thank you. James, I don't see a question attached to it, but whenever you get an opportunity, just type in the live chat. I'm sure you tried to attach it, but unfortunately was not able to clip in together within that super. So once you get an opportunity, send that in my direction. Thank you. Nathan Dennison, 3710, sends out a question. Says, I've seen your Hidden Gems video. Why not boost DJ Moore? Well, here's the thing. The reality is DJ Moore is rostered in far more leagues. So the overall thing is, yes, DJ Moore is objectively already getting a bump within his rankings, as I included him in my wide receiver rankings on Wednesday. The only reason I didn't want to mention him on this most recent Hidden Gems episode is because I do believe, effectively, if we're looking for players that are rostered in less leagues and started in less leagues, objectively, Luther Burden is the answer. But of course, DJ Moore is going to be higher ranked than Luther Burden. That's a given. So that was like kind of the low-hanging fruit. So I didn't want to look in the direction of making that the automatic suggestion, as he'll be significantly ranked higher within tomorrow morning's rankings in my top 36. So I'm in the same boat as you, Nathan. 100%. I think DJ Moore should have a better game against Green Bay, especially last season. Has torn them apart, at a pretty substantial level. The hope is that, of course, we get a lot more designed opportunities for DJ Moore, because that's really what has made the biggest difference here. Or they start to expand him within the slot utilization, which, of course, against Pittsburgh Steelers a couple weeks, that's how he found himself as successful as he did. So, yeah, of course, DJ Moore is clear and away the number one of this offense in the absence of Rome Odunze. But yeah, close behind him should be Luther Burden. That does get an uptick. Thank you, Nathan. Alejo sends in a question. Says, full PPR, Burrow or Hurts this week? Genuinely, I'd rather play Burrow. Genuinely. Now, the snow in Buffalo is definitely a concern. I will objectively agree to that. I have seen Joe Burrow go into Buffalo in a heavy snow game in the playoffs and absolutely torched his defense before. So I've seen it been done. No Joey Bosa out there. I believe also Bernard is probably going to be missing, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. Let's go see this injury report for the Buffalo Bills, if they updated it, of course. Yeah. Terrell Bernard is going to be out, one of their starting linebackers. I feel like if you have your starting linebacker and one of your defensive linemen out, you can't stop the run already. They may lean to the running game that much more. But we'll have to wait and see what exactly this weather is going to look like by tomorrow, because this time last week, I thought that Cleveland versus the San Francisco game was going to be heavy snow. And that's what it was pretty much advertised to be. Then we get to Sunday, and not a single drop of snow was impacting that game in a negative capacity. So I'm very curious to see tomorrow afternoon what that snow is going to look like. Actually, I think it's a tomorrow morning game. Let me see here. When do they take each other on? The Buffalo, yeah, that's tomorrow morning. So throughout tomorrow's live stream, we'll be able to dictate what it looks like. In the event in which it's a horrible snow weather game to where it's difficult to see, much less throw the ball, then of course we'll pivot to Jalen Hurts. Otherwise, I would like to try to play Burrow in this circumstance. It says, who do I stash for a backup tight end, Gadsden or Loveland with the Dunze week to week? I think that's a pretty good question. I just don't like the matchup for Loveland against Green Bay, especially considering he has to take them on not only this week, but 2 weeks from now. I know that the Chicago Bears next week have Cleveland within a matchup, which I think is a decent matchup in itself, but not the greatest. I'd feel a little bit more comfortable just still keeping Gadsden in this circumstance, because I know that Gadsden, even though of late has not been the most relevant tight end, he doesn't have another tight end on roster like Komet is, impacting the overall workload of his utilization. So in any given week, we could get Gadsden back to his 8 targets and no one would blink. While Loveland, it would take a potential injury to a Cole Kmet for his overall utilization to increase as much as we'd like. Even though Odunze is out, I think a lot of the target opportunities that would typically go to Odunze is now going to be distributed amongst more Luther Burden and Zacchaeus within that offense, within those wide receiver conversations. Thank you. All right, moving on to, actually, let me go back up here and see if James King has sent in a question. There you go, James. It says, afternoon. Full PPR, Michael Carter or Spears? I genuinely would rather have Michael Carter in this circumstance. Yeah, in a full PPR scoring format, Michael Carter of late has not only been one of the more viable running backs, putting up 7.8, 8.8, and 11.4 fantasy points just off of the receiving utilization that he has had. We're talking about 5+ receptions in 2 of the last 3 games. So if we're going to be exposed to anything of a very similar sense, if not maybe an expanded sense, considering the game script may eventually lead to that, if Michael Carter comes away with an easy 5, 6, maybe 7 receptions this week, which he's certainly capable of, especially with Greg Dortch out, I think there's a high chance in which he outscores the likelihood of what Spears has put forth as of late. Spears would have to get a lot more rushing usage in this circumstance to be able to outscore him. But again, it's going to be close because Spears 5, 4, 6 receptions of late. But taking on Cleveland tomorrow, considering it's a closer matchup and they're not going to be having to come back greatly from a negative script, I think it'll be a little bit of a lesser receiving category day from Spears. So I'll lean towards Michael Carter there. As for Jacoby, BTJ or Luther, honestly, I'd rather play Jacoby Myers. That is my number one of the bunch. And then as of Devin Neal or Omarion Hampton, I would lean towards playing Omarion Hampton as of this week. Thank you. All right, moving on to a question that came in from official Rob, who says, first round bye. Appreciate you, man. I need one running back and one flex, full PPR. Okay, so if you have a first round bye, then or is the first round bye on the line? If it's on the line, then I understand the question. Otherwise, if I'm you, I'm preparing for next week. I'm picking up defenses. I'm setting up my lineup. Like in any of my leagues where I've already got a first round bye, guys, I have pretty much secured it to where like I will sack this week. I will make sure a team that is playing against me wins if I have it. I'll play players that are on bye if I need to, just to kind of spread the love a little bit. But as of this moment, full PPR, Neal, Hampton, Vidal. Hampton against Sutton, Watson, Burden, or DK. Of the available options in a full PPR scoring format, I would feel most comfortable probably rolling in the direction of playing Cortland Sutton as that flex, and then probably Hampton as my starting RB in this circumstance. So I'd go Hampton plus Sutton. It's close. Christian Watson could take that spot from Sutton, but I do really like the upside of the matchup, specifically taking on the Raiders secondary that has struggled mightily this season. I will say Christian Watson should have himself a little bit of an easier week as well this week, considering I think it's Tyreek Stevenson, one of the Chicago Bears secondary members, is not going to be playing as well this week. So it does make it a technically easier position there. But I think that Jalen Johnson's back, right? Yeah, Jalen Johnson's back, which scares the living. I mean, Romeo Doubs may disappear or Christian Watson may disappear. Jalen Johnson's no joke. So for now, I'd lean towards Sutton and Hampton in this circumstance. Thank you. All right, Led, what's up? Says, hey, Andrew, questions in the chat. Appreciate it, my man. Says that a full PPR plus 0.15 for rushing and receiving yards. Okay, so 0.15 for, okay, got it. Start in the flex. Neal, Bam Knight, Godwin, AD Mitchell, Hunt, Monungai, or Schultz. Okay, you got a really, really interesting question here. Because if you're getting that much of an uptick of production off of yardage, it may counterbalance. Okay, so I'm immediately, like my initial thought off the jump was go Monungai and go AD Mitchell. But now I'm considering Dalton Schultz as a play in this circumstance because of the volume of receptions he's able to haul. Which maybe I play him over someone like Monungai. But I mean, I don't know if it's a necessity. Let's see here. If I theoretically, yeah, I would say just the sheer base volume of production, if we're not guaranteed any sort of touchdowns, even though, again, Monungai and Hunt and Bam Knight have had a nose for the end zone of late, I think still AD Mitchell and Dalton Schultz might be your best plays in this circumstance, to which kind of that is where I'm leaning towards as of right now in a full PPR 0.15 per rushing and receiving yards kind of format. So that's what I'll suggest. I could theoretically play Monungai, but no receiving workload, very touchdown kind of dependent in this circumstance. Hunt, again, he's got 3 offensive linemen out of the starting. I think Bam Knight is actually in a decent spot here, but again, I think the overall floor of production from Schultz and then effectively the ceiling on top of it is higher. Same thing with AD Mitchell. So those are the two that I'd go with there. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, J-Bo, what's up? J-Bo sends out a question, says, hey, Drew, I need a bye week. At tight end, should I start Waller or Gadsden? And in the flex, should I start Rodriguez, Aaron Jones, or Sutton? Okay, so I think it depends on, so format is full PPR. It really just purely becomes a matter of like, who are we expecting to score a touchdown? Like, are we going to anticipate that Waller falls into the end zone, or can Gadsden potentially sneak one? I think, again, Waller's overall distribution of opportunity has been a little bit wonky. I think the fact that, again, they're continuing to utilize Greg Dulcich as much as they are kind of concerns me in terms of his utilization. I understand this most recent week didn't have the greatest overall snap share on his first week back, but it's not that much shy of what we have seen in the past. And again, very much so going to be dependent on that one singular play for a touchdown. Otherwise, we're cooked. So in a full PPR, I'd genuinely rather play Gadsden in the case. And then as for your flex, do you start Rodriguez, Aaron Jones, or Sutton? In a full PPR scoring format, I feel like it's preferred to lean in the direction of Sutton here. I think the reception count, the yardage by itself can get me an easy 10 points, 5 for 50. And then any sort of additional upside on top of that, whether it is yardage, receptions, touchdowns, I think any of these available options would be a little bit of a lesser potential standpoint on that. So I'd lean towards Sutton and Gadsden in this circumstance. Thank you. Alrighty, let's see here. Scrolling back up to catch up on some of these questions. Appreciate y'all coming through. Again, if you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, click the like button. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow morning starting at 7 a.m. PST. Thank you. But of course, for those of you guys who have been here for a while, you know that. Thank you. All right, Luis Perez sends in a question. Says start two. Full PPR, Monangai, Troy Franklin, Waller, Burden, or Reed. I have to play Monangai because I think the safest floor of the bunch revolves around Monangai. And then it becomes a matter of, do I want to play Jaden Reed on his first week back? I know he's coming off of a shoulder collarbone injury, so it's not really something that I'm worried about. But the fact that he got limited participation in practice all week long doesn't really make me excited about the potential there. So I'd probably lean in the right from that direction, even though this season there has been success found specifically taking on this secondary because their nickel cornerback has kind of flopped around. Kyler Gordon has not been healthy, then it's kind of switched around here and there. But for now, I'm not too keen on playing Jaden Reed. Jordan Love spreads his love too much to receiver options across the board. Any week it could be Dobbs, any week it could be Watson, Wicks. Maybe this week could be Reed, but I think it's a little bit sketchy. I think of the availables here, I probably go Franklin and Monangai in a full PPR. Golden sends it a question, says full PPR, one running back and one flex and one tight end. My running back options are Neal, Mason, Hunt, Corum. Okay, of these available in a full PPR, I think, let me see here. Where do I want to go with those two? I think it's probably in our best interest in a full PPR. Considering the offensive line situation for the Kansas City Chiefs, I'll probably just take Neal in this circumstance. As for the flex, we have, okay, let's see what you have at wide receiver. You have A.D. Mitchell. Yeah, I'm playing A.D. Mitchell there. It's no question. Unless Higgins is T. Higgins, I'm playing A.D. Mitchell in your flex. And then within your tight end position, you've got Gadsden, Pitts, Ertz, and Waller. I will genuinely play Pitts or Ertz. I think going into this week, I mentioned it before, and I can go ahead and reiterate, the production that we have seen from Ertz when Jaden Daniels has been active has been significantly stronger. In the last 12 games they have played together, Zach Ertz has scored 9 receiving touchdowns. So I think there's a likelihood in which he could find the end zone this week. Additionally, on top of that, get himself a very strong utilization of opportunity. I think Kyle Pitts is in that same range. I think it's one of these two options. Personally, because of the touchdown upside, I would probably lean towards Ertz in this circumstance as your tight end there. Thank you. Jerome Hill sends in a question. Thank you very much, Jerome. Appreciate it. Says 10-team full PPR start Jaden Daniels or Jacoby Brissett. I would prefer to play Jaden Daniels in this circumstance as of this week. Says, who do we, especially considering, again, Brissett I had relatively highly ranked this week, but now that we have a confirmation that not only is Marvin Harrison out, but Greg Dortch is going to the injured reserve, I think that's an absolute negative for the potential of Brissett. With lesser weapons around him in a pass-heavy script, we may lead to more interceptions, which again is the volatility potential there. So personally, I would rather play Jaden Daniels in this circumstance. Says, who should I flex? Woody Marks, Cortland Sutton, or Terry McLaurin? In the case of now that we have Jaden Daniels back in a full PPR, I'm very comfortable with the idea of going McLaurin there. If you don't want to play McLaurin, then the next best option is Sutton. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Man sends in a question, says pick 4, BTJ McLaurin, Debo, Zay, Burden, Vele. Thank you. Okay, so of your available options, I think McLaurin and Debo is the 1-2 combo here as my highest ranked, especially with Jaden Daniels back in the lineup. After that, it becomes a little bit of a toss-up circumstance here. I believe Parker Washington, limited practice all week, should be expected to play, which does not make me feel that much more comfortable about BTJ's overall utilization. So in this circumstance, I probably, if this is a full PPR league, I probably go McLaurin, Debo, Vele, and Zay Flowers. That's probably the direction I go in. If it's a half PPR, I could feel a little bit more tempted to go in the direction of a Burden in hopes of a huge play for a touchdown, but I think in a full PPR, yeah, McLaurin, Debo, Zay Flowers, and Devon Vele there. Thank you. Anthony C. 5525 says, Waddle or Watson? In a half PPR between the two of them, I would rather just play Waddle in this circumstance. Again, I think Christian Watson, any given week, again, can make one singular play. His entire fantasy performance, a 50-yard touchdown like this most recent game, obviously speaks to that. But in this circumstance, in a half PPR, he is very much dependent on those plays. While Waddle can make his entire fantasy week off of receptions and yards, and if he finds the upside of a touchdown, which is certainly possible against the Jets this week, I think he is the more, he's not only the safer play, but additionally has just as much upside, if not more. Matt Glore sends it a question. Says, in a 4-point per passing touchdown league, Jacoby Brissett or Jaden Daniels? I'd lean towards Jaden Daniels there. Thank you. Says, I'm projected 127 to 110. So do I go with Jacoby in case JD5 gets hurt in game? I don't think he's going to get hurt in game. Again, the most recent injury, the elbow injury, was quite the fluke situation. That's the first time I've ever seen that from a quarterback. So I'm not really going to utilize that against JD5. Again, he's been cleared for contact, and I'm sure he's chomping at the bit to get back to play. Again, he's coming off of an incredible rookie campaign and obviously wants to finish his second year strong. So I'll lean towards JD5 there. All right, let's see here. Deblo1001 says, half PPR, Monangai, C-Rod, Woody Marks, or Hampton. Okay, that's a really good one. As of right now, I kind of want to just play Monangai because I think he has a really safe floor. C-Rod and Hampton are definitely in the convo. I'm not really too interested in Woody Marks. Again, he gets incredible opportunity share, not in the receiving game and not close to the goal line often. So that's very much so a sketchy, potential there. As for those available, though, let's see here. Where do I have them ranked on my spreadsheet? Okay, so you have C-Rod, you have Monangai, you have Hampton. So of those available, yeah, as of right now, I think I feel most comfortable in the direction of just rolling Monangai in case of a Hampton kind of split. C-Rod is definitely in the convo, like on the tails of Monangai, because I do have them both in that top 24. But in this circumstance, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with Monangai, especially considering there's a possibility of utilization from Jaden Daniels' legs, taking away some value on the goal line from C-Rod. Thank you. All right, let's see here. What is that? Abed Diaz sends it a question. Cortez says, start Baker or Bo Nix? If it was this time next week, Baker's an auto start because of Evans and potentially Jalen McMillan returning. As for this week, Baker versus New Orleans, I think it's going to be a run-heavy game. I personally would end up playing Bo Nix there between the two of them. Next question says, Green Bay, Reed or Watson? I would rather play Watson in this circumstance. I think, again, I don't really want to play a wide receiver on their first week back from injury. Over the course of the season, the only wide receiver that I've seen immediately make an impact on their first week back was McLaurin this last week. And that's why I was so low on him, especially taking on Denver secondary and Patrick Surtain. I thought, okay, there's going to be a little bit of a lesser production. That's the only wide receiver that I've seen come back from injury and immediately make an impact off the rip. So I'd lean towards Watson there, especially considering his targets continue to go up weekly for the last 4 consecutive games. It says, who should I flex? DJ Moore with the Dunze out, Saquon Barkley, Chris Rodriguez, or Jaden Higgins? I'd have a hard time not playing Saquon here because the issue with Saquon is the 1 week you probably bench him, he goes for 25 points. Especially taking on the Los Angeles Chargers lacking run stop defense, I feel like that is the most appropriate play of the bunch. Thank you. Mr. Hockeyman 1998 says, hey Andrew, questions in the chat. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, my man. All right, let's see here. It says, in 2 leagues, full PPR, Michael Pittman Jr. or Omarion Hampton. I would play Pittman Jr. in both leagues. Absolutely. Especially against Jacksonville secondary, I think that is the appropriate play. Also, Emeka Ibuka or Michael Pittman, I would still lean towards Michael Pittman in this circumstance as well. Again, I think Michael Pittman Jr., I understand the most recent performance against Houston secondary did not bode well, but we were not anticipating that to be a great week. We knew it from the jump. Stingley and Lassiter were going to make problems for him. But taking on Jacksonville secondary, that again, many of wide receivers have found success against. They are not the greatest. They have a better run-stop defense than they do a secondary, which leads to teams throwing it against them heavily. I would anticipate Michael Pittman to have another big week here. Thank you. Tim Schwartz, 223, sends it a question, says help. With 3 exclamation points. Double quarterback league. Who would you play and why? We have Mahomes, Mayfield, and Jaden Daniels. Okay, so first and foremost, I think Mahomes' offensive line issues do make me a little bit sketched out about the potential here, but I feel like I have to play Mahomes because in any given week, even without offensive alignment, he could still be relevant because of the talent that he has. So alongside of him, it becomes a matter of Mayfield and Daniels. Mayfield has just been a quarterback that is completing 1 touchdown a week and doesn't really provide as much rushing upside as the theoretical kind of upside that Mahomes or Jaden Daniels could reach. So I'll lean towards Jaden Daniels and Mahomes there. I think they are the safer options, and I think they both have additionally more upside within the circumstance. It says, if I lose, I'll be out of the playoffs. Yeah, I think your 2 best plays are your 2 best quarterbacks in this circumstance. Thank you. Olive sends it a question, says, Gatson or Waller? What do you think of them rest of season? Rest of season, I think Waller's got an incredible schedule ahead. If I'm not mistaken, they have like Cincy, Pittsburgh, and Tampa Bay ahead. Let me just confirm this. Pittsburgh in week 15 against tight ends, they've been pretty shallow. In terms of Cincy week 16 and then Tampa Bay week 17, I think those are all solid matchups in the circumstance. So by the time we get there, if there's a little bit of a gradual increase of target opportunity, I think that'd be very positive. As for Gadsden's overall rest of season outlook, taking on Kansas City, again, not the greatest overall matchup in that circumstance, but could be taken advantage of if given ample opportunity. Then they have Dallas, which again, not the, I think it would be a shootout, which again would be exciting. So hopefully he'll get more utilization there. And then they have Houston. Again, I would assume that maybe against Houston, a little bit more tight in utilization, considering how well those cornerbacks shut down the outside receiving help. So I think in the grand scheme rest of season, if both are given ample opportunity, technically speaking, Waller should have a better rest of season performance considering matchups. But again, it's tough to say that he's going to be able to objectively get that. So as of right now, I think there is a higher likelihood in which Gadsden gets more targets in the meanwhile for rest of season, considering how he's been deployed of late within this offense in comparison to a Waller. But obviously, I think Waller's upside from performances make him the more desirable piece for weeks 15 through 17. King Carl 2012 says full PPR. Quarterback Brissett versus Jones. Pick 2. Okay. Okay, that's first question. So am I playing Jacoby Brissett or am I playing Daniel Jones? I would prefer to play Jacoby Brissett this week in this circumstance. As for the two of them, again, I do believe that there is a conversation that Daniel Jones could have himself a greater passing day, just absolutely throwing the ball for majority of the game if they're in a negative script or if the running game starts to kind of fall apart considering the efforts of Jacksonville. But I still do believe that Brissett is the better play of the two. Now, pick 2 between Wilson, Terry, and Pittman. I think that's pretty easy. I think Michael Wilson has to start alongside of him. Playing Michael Pittman against Jacksonville seems like in my mind, the appropriate decision. Are you in a full PPR league? You are in a full PPR league. It does change it slightly, but as of right now, I probably feel a little bit more comfortable with the idea of going with Michael Pittman in that circumstance. I think he's got more touchdown. I mean, not more technical touchdown upside. Actually, you know what? If it was a half PPR, I would tell you to play Pittman. If it was a full PPR, it's probably Terry McLaurin in this circumstance. Because I think the touchdown upside is relatively equal. Pittman scored, 7 in the last 10 games. Terry McLaurin, over the course of his last, I think, 18 or 19 games, has a pretty crazy record. He's 15 touchdowns. So I think it's close enough. In a full PPR, am I going to sway one where, what did I have them ranked on Thursday? Yeah, I think I'll stick with what I had on Thursday. Let's just take Terry McLaurin in a full PPR there. Thank you. Prodigy sends in a question. Thank you, Prodigy. I appreciate it. Prodigy says, pick 2 running backs, 1 wide receiver, and a tight end. We have Bucky, Judkins, Harvey. Okay, that's easy. Bucky has to play, and I'm thinking he has to play alongside of Judkins, but my only concern ends up rolling around the idea that Wyatt Teller and Jack Conklin, brother of Tyler Conklin, both those starting offensive linemen are going to be out, which is very much so the potential risk that is involved there. That immediately makes me think, do I rather just roll with Harvey and hope for the touchdown upside there? As of right now, I haven't come to that conclusion. I'm still leaning towards Bucky and Judkins as the 1-2 there. As for Abuka or Wilson, I have to play Michael Wilson. And then as for Gadsden, Barner, or Loveland, I'd still lean towards Gadsden in this circumstance in hopes that, of course, tight end success will be found against this Philadelphia defense as it has the last 2 weeks here. No Love Matt 27 says full PPR, pick 2 Strange, Mitchell, Sharbs, Worthy, Bam Knight, or Kyle Monangai. Okay, in a full PPR scoring format, I'm actually curious here. What is Knight's overall receiving utilization look like of late? I think he's gotten himself a pretty good contingency. Is it a full PPR? It is. Okay, so let's look up Knight here. So Bam Knight in a full PPR, the last 3 weeks has 4, 4, and 3 receptions. I think in comparison to a Monangai, I think he's more valuable in this circumstance. And then in regards to my next best option, I think it would be A.D. Mitchell. So I play Bam Knight and I'd play A.D. Mitchell there as your full PPR top 2 options as of this week. Thank you. Pete sends it a question. It says half PPR flex, Jalen Warren or Alec Pierce? Thank you. In a half PPR against Baltimore, I think Alec Pierce is the appropriate play, taking on Jacksonville. Thank you. Let's see here. Then we move on to a question from Ben who says Burden or Jaden tomorrow. That's a really good one. I don't know if Off the top of my head, I would probably lean towards the idea of I would rather play the receiver that has been playing the last 4 weeks and has momentum building towards him and will get a greater opportunity share because of the absence of Adunze. So I'd lean towards Burden. Again, I've mentioned this before, guys. Jayden Reed is 100% touchdown dependent. Over the course of his career, especially if we look back to last season, there was only, especially over the course of his last 12 games, the most targets he had in a single game was 6. So he is not really going to be given a very kind of streamlined opportunity share. Now, maybe in the absence of Tucker Kraft, this may change in comparison to last year, but especially from week 5 through 18 of last season, again, the most targets he had in a single game was 6. He had that on 5 different occasions out of 12 games. So his opportunity share does not leave too much. Unless he has a huge receiving yard game or potentially finds himself in the end zone, I think I'd rather just have Luther Burden in this circumstance. Thank you. Make Music sends in a question. What's up, brother? Says YouTube Rap says, I'm top 1% AK viewer. Really? Top 0.1%. Excuse me. Holy moly. My man. I mean, again, you've been around this channel for a couple of years now. So I don't even doubt that in that circumstance. But yeah, I haven't even seen my YouTube Rap. Where do you guys even find that? Says I'm also first place in all 3 of my leagues. Coincidence? Question mark. I think not. It also says I watch YouTube 4x more than the average person. To put that into perspective, I mean, listen, I would probably it says 195 AK videos watched this year. We're basically best friends. I mean, listen, brother, you've been around this channel for a while. I greatly appreciate the support and, of course, the viewership. It's incredible. But yeah, I mean, I would like to say I probably watch more YouTube videos than you, because majority of the time that I'm kind of putting together stats and doing all this research, there's a podcast or something else up on screen. But I'd like to try to find that YouTube Rap and I'll compare it to what you've got here. I'm definitely not. I mean, I probably watch just as many videos of you. Of myself, considering I edit every one of my videos. But thank you very much. I appreciate that. 0.1% is wild, though, brother. Okay. Was there a question here? No, there wasn't. It was just that. Okay. Thank you again, man. I appreciate it. First place in all your leagues, huh? Absolutely wild. Abram sends in a question, says, drop Michael Wilson for Jayden Reed. Nope, absolutely not. Not interested. Again, Michael Wilson, what he's going to be able to contribute this week, and with Greg Dortch going to the injured reserve, and with the potential of Marvin Harrison missing more time due to the heel injury, Michael Wilson has to stay on roster. He's an automatic there. Reed or Diggs rest of the season. I'd rather have Diggs, especially taking on Buffalo in the next week, week 15. It says, what is that? Money sign EED or Dowdle? Who the heck is Seed? Oh, I think you meant Reed again. Reed or Dowdle? No, I'd rather have Dowdle. I don't want Jayden Reed in comparison to any of these options here, Abram. Thank you. Golden sends in a question, says, if you have a player starting against your defense, should you try to change your defense in a must-win situation? I have Wilson and the Rams starting. No, absolutely not. Look, I don't think it's counterintuitive to start a player against your defense. You are looking to try to put together the roster that is the best potential for scoring the most points. In the case of starting the Rams defense, I think you are doing just exactly that. You are putting together a defense that is probably going to score a pretty good volume of points. So I would not suggest, unless you have a defense like Tampa Bay, Cleveland, or Denver available in your league, Seattle, theoretically, unless one of those defenses are out there and available, I'm not looking to pivot off of the Rams. I would still keep them. And I think Michael Wilson, just off of yardage alone and receptions, is going to do so much damage that he is unequivocally your best available wide receiver. So you have to play him and you have to play the Rams. In no circumstance, again, am I ever trying to avoid playing a defense against even my own quarterback. I don't care. As long as, well, actually, if I'm anticipating the defense to absolutely cook my quarterback, then maybe I should look to pivot off my quarterback. But in the case of this situation, if that is providing, in my opinion, the highest potential for my scoring, I'm going to still stick with it. Hector Hernandez sends in a question. His questions in the chat and continuation as well, brother. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay. Says, hey, Andrew. As always, much blessings to you. Blessings to my brother. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. 10-team full PPR. Jacobs or Watson in the flex. Absolutely got to play Jacobs. Unequivocally, not even close. Josh Jacobs is clear and away the best option there. Also, Godwin or Reed, got to play Godwin there. Again, he dropped a touchdown last week. Should have had himself even more potential for upside. Should see himself an extended opportunity share in the absence of Evans and McMillan for another week here. And then your next question, and Aaron Jones, Mason, or Hampton, I would lean towards probably playing Aaron Jones there. Had himself a full participation of practice, was clear from the injury report, takes on Washington, which is one of the best matchups. And I don't really have to worry about what the utilization of Hampton's going to be. I mean, I'd be willing to play him, but I am sketched out about, like, is it going to be a 50-50 split? Is Hampton going to get enough of the receiving workload? Is Justin Herbert healthy enough to stay in that full game? There's just so much there that bothers me that I would just rather play Aaron Jones in one of the most advantageous matchups, taking on Washington's lacking run stop defense. Thank you. Chico Frey says a question. Says full PPR. I need a flex. We have Dobbs. We have Burden. Or do I pick up Reed? I genuinely would end up playing Burden in that circumstance. It says if it's Reed, which of those two would I drop? I mean, I don't mind the idea of dropping Dobbs in order to pick up Reed for the future. I think that is actually a decent idea. But I'm not going to play Reed over Burden in this circumstance. It says 49ers defense is available. Do they factor into this equation? 49ers defense, if you have the option, like, again, I've told you before, in the leagues in which I've already secured a first round bye for next week, or sorry, not even first round bye, if I've secured playoff positioning next week and a win this week does not make it a difference as to whether or not I make the playoffs, I am picking up the 49ers and I have them in my starting lineup this week because I'm preparing for next week against the Titans. So in the event in which you're like, oh, Andrew, would I rather just pick up the 49ers and drop Dobbs here? I actually don't mind that idea because am I going to play Reed going into next week? I mean, there is a conversation to be had in the case in which Reed shows up and balls out. Maybe we could utilize him against Denver, but I don't love the matchup as a whole. So personally, if I was you, I might just drop Dobbs here, pick up the 49ers, prepare for next week, and roll with Burden this week. Thank you, Chico. Riff sends it a question. Says, half PPR, Burden or Vele? I'd rather play Vele in that circumstance. Thank you. Linton sends in a question. Says, appreciate you, brother. Questions in the chat. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Says, full PPR for bench. I have the Broncos defense. Do I drop one? Okay, drop one wide receiver for the 49ers defense for week 15 against the Titans. Wide receivers are JSN, Rice, Scary Terry, Flowers, and Sutton. Okay, so JSN, Rice cannot be dropped. Scary Terry at this point cannot be dropped. Sutton can't be dropped. I think Flowers is your guy. Flowers is your least valuable receiving option, and it's because he doesn't score touchdowns. He hasn't scored a touchdown since week 1, and coincidentally enough, the 1 week he scored a touchdown, he finishes the number 1 overall wide receiver of the given week. But over the course of his career, he has lacked touchdowns, and Lamar struggling does not help. I would drop Flowers out of this group because I probably don't foresee myself playing him amongst the rest of your options here, especially that you have Wilson eventually returning from IR as well. So I would be in that direction. I'd be picking them up and I'd be rolling them there. And then it says Broncos versus the Jaguars or Chiefs versus Titans, week 16, Chiefs, 100%. 100% there, Linton. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, Frank Grillo sends it a question. Frank, hope you're doing well, my good sir. Frank says the following. Says, Devontae Smith or McLaurin? I would prefer to play McLaurin in this circumstance with Jaden Daniels back. Says Woody Marks or Gainwell? I'd rather play Woody Marks there. Opportunity is king in fantasy football. Whenever Woody Marks is getting 15-plus touches in each of the last 4 games, have to lean in that direction. Aaron Rodgers is not as keen to check it down to his running back, so Gainwell doesn't have as much value. Woody Marks and McLaurin are my primary suggestions there. Final question, Trevor Lawrence or Daniel Jones? As for both of those quarterback options, as it stands, it's close. I think you could go either way. I just prefer Trevor Lawrence because of the rushing upside that he could provide while Daniel Jones is dealing with that, the fibula injury as of this moment. Thank you. Stephen Drakes sends it a question. Says, hey, brother. Hey, my brother. First, thank you. I'm 13-0. No, you're not. There's no way. Brother, there's no way you're 13-0. How? Brother, how? There's not even a possibility. That should be illegal. Your league should probably veto you out. No, I'm just kidding. Congratulations, brother. If that's actual, my goodness, 13-0 is wild. Says second, would you flex Michael Wilson or Monangai? Not even close. I'm playing Michael Wilson there, guys. Again, in the absence of Marvin Harrison, we have seen him go for over 100 yards in both games and 10-plus receptions in both games. There's no question I'm playing Michael Wilson in this circumstance. Thank you. Luis Becerra sends in a question. Luis, thank you. Says Monangai or Burden in the flex full PPR. Even in a full PPR, I feel like the floor of production of Monangai can't be passed up on, especially if he finds even more potential for upside in the matchup against Green Bay, where again they can't stop the run like they have. We've witnessed over the course of the last 6 weeks here, 4 games in which they have been battered on the ground. So Monangai could deliver one of those kind of games once again. Alex Ruiz, 53.96. Thank you, Alex. Says 4-point per passing touchdown. We have Jaden Daniels. We have Jalen Hurts, Jacoby Brissett. Genuinely, I'm playing Jaden Daniels there. And for a full PPR, I need 2 flex. Charbonnet, Monangai, Neal, BTJ, C-Rod, Bam, Luther Burden. That's a really tough one. I think it has to be one of your... Okay, so your running backs are the primary options here. I'm not interested in BTJ, nor am I interested in Luther Burden. I probably am playing one of these running backs because genuinely, They not only have the higher floor of production, but additionally have that much more upside than the alternatives, to which I'd feel comfortable there, even in a full PPR. So in the case of your available options here, I feel like your best two plays are probably Bam Knight. And then it's becoming a matter of like, do I want to I mean, I genuinely think against Atlanta, Charbonnet could go nuclear. Manungai's been just as consistent. Neal needs to get, I don't think Neal's the answer. C-Rod could be a stud. As of this moment, I probably end up positioning myself to go Bam Knight and probably Manungai. So the order at which I have it would be Bam 1, Manungai 2, Charbonnet 3, C-Rod 4, Neal 5. So that's the order in which I would suggest it to you. Bam and Manungai are my 1-2 combo there. And then in another full PPR league, it says I need 2 between Woody, Neal, and C-Rod. I'd probably play Neal and C-Rod there. Thank you. Led says, follow-up question for more context. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let's see what you have here. It says, I'm playing against Gibbs, who scored 43 points. I have Jaden Daniels, James Cook, Derrick Henry, St. Brown, who scored 19.8. Congratulations. We love to see that. McLaurin, Strange, and the Broncos defense. If I can only play one between Schultz and AD Mitchell, who? Okay, so technically speaking, Schultz has a safer level because again, he's proven week over week for the last 2 months now that he can produce 11 plus fantasy points in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the last 8 games. So that level of baseline production makes me want to play Schultz, but I do believe against Miami, AD Mitchell has incredible potential for upside, to which maybe he is in fact just like the go-to here. Yeah, I think between the two of them, it's close. Let me see where I even had them ranked on Thursday. Between the two, we had Schultz there and Mitchell. Yeah, I probably, if I'm looking for the higher workload potential projection, I think it's AD Mitchell. Because Schultz is going to get you that 11 points, but I think AD Mitchell can go far beyond that. And if you're trying to make back a huge deficit because of what Gibbs has put forth, I think AD Mitchell is probably your answer in this circumstance. Thank you. All right, moving on. We had a question from Anthony99157 who says, full PPR, pick one in the flex. Aaron Jones, Scary Terry, Sutton, Godwin, and Zay. I'm playing Scary Terry there. Terry McLaurin is my answer in this circumstance in a full PPR scoring format. Thank you. Rockout5177 says, full PPR flex, Knight, AD Mitchell, Jaden Higgins. I'll take a Knight and Mitchell there very easily. Thank you. Daniel sends in a question, says half PPR flex, AD Mitchell or more. I'm assuming that's DJ Moore. Waller or Juwan Johnson. I would prefer to play Juwan Johnson in this circumstance. I think he has just as much touchdown upside in terms of his overall utilization and has that much more of a higher floor based on receptions and receiving yards. So Juwan Johnson's for sure there. As for AD Mitchell and DJ Moore, I would stick with AD Mitchell in this circumstance. Thank you. All right, we move on to a question from Isaac Jones, 9488. Says, drop Corum for Burden. It depends. Do you have Kyron on roster? If you have Kyron on roster, then I'm keeping Corum. If we're just looking for the better flex play this week, then yes, I would say that Burden is the answer. Thank you. Danger FC says, do I start Michael Pittman or Michael Wilson? I would prefer to play Michael Wilson in this week in a full PPR. Thank you. Aaron sends in a question, says, Mahomes or Brissett? Again, as of right now, I would like to still stick with Mahomes there. Even with his offensive line in shambles, I'd probably still stick with him because of the rushing upside. Now, I will say, it is probably close enough to where we could convince ourselves that it could become a disaster and the baseline of what Brissett has put forth could be, could occur again. But for right now, I probably still stick with my stud of Mahomes. Again, both are great options, but I'll lean towards the greater of the two. Hampton or Walker? As of right now, I'd go with Kenneth Walker there. Rice or Wilson? Gotta play Rashee Rice. Bowers or Kincaid? Gotta play Bowers. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. 26 bands. What's up, brother? It says full PPR, my team. Okay. Team I'm playing against is starting Andrews and Flowers. Should I start Mahomes or Lamar? I also have Seattle and Rams defense. Should I drop one for Carolina's defense for next week? Let me see who Carolina plays next week. Carolina Panthers play against New Orleans next week. Earlier this season, they didn't bode too well against them, so Ultimately, I'd rather just keep the Rams and the Seattle defense, genuinely. I know that they play against one another. I believe it's next week. But I'm still willing to easily go in that direction of just, oh no, sorry. They play, okay. So he played against Detroit. So I'm not playing the Rams defense next week. Let me see. Who does Seattle play against next week? They play against Indy. I'd still play Seattle. I feel like I just have to. They've got an incredible run stop defense. They'll force some problems with Daniel Jones. I'd play Seattle next week instead of Carolina versus New Orleans. Even though if you want to, you can. I don't feel like I need to. In the case of Mahomes versus Lamar, genuinely, I'd probably rather play Lamar because of that circumstance that you're painting. So that way you're canceling out their points. And additionally, on top of it, if Lamar has that big game, you're going to be perfectly fine. So yes, I'll go with Lamar there. Ron, Mexico, sends out a question. Ron, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Says in a half PPR guillotine league, got a tough one. I'm projected to score the lowest. Do I start Jefferson versus Minnesota or Wilson versus Arizona? I'd play Wilson, genuinely. I don't want to risk it with 9. I think what JJ McCarthy has presented is JJ McCarthy. If he was to somehow flip the script completely, that would be an actual shock. Over the course of quarterbacks, over the course of just watching quarterbacks over these years, very seldom do we ever see a quarterback just flip the script immediately because of 1 week. So I think in this circumstance, it's probably a Michael Wilson play, considering the volume he should see this week. Octal Nickel sends in a question. Says, half PPR, choose 2 wide receivers and 1 flex between Abuka, Waddle, Sutton, Chris Rodriguez, and Genty. Okay, so you've got a lot of really solid options here. I think of the group, the appropriate play probably ends up being in a half PPR. I want to play Genty, and I think I'm going to. Let me see what we're looking at in terms of Genty's production, even in a half PPR. Man, even with 6 receptions the last couple weeks, the lack of rushing yards has been an absolute disaster for him. Against Denver, he was decent last time out, but I don't know if he'll fare as well this time. I think your safest play is going with all 3 wide receivers in this circumstance. I think if you wanted to take the risk on Genty, you would play him over you probably play him over Abuka. So my suggestion is Abuka, Waddle, Sutton. If you were trying to play Genty and you think he's a must start, then you play Genty alongside of Sutton and Waddle there. Thank you. We move on to a question from Rockout, who says 1 wide receiver, 1 flex. Franklin, Vele, Burden, Monangai, PPR. I don't want to play Burden there. It's between Monangai, Vele, and Franklin. As of right now, I'm not out on Franklin. I am concerned that there could be a week here where if he doesn't score a touchdown, we're in trouble, and he's relied upon that greatly. So at this point, I would feel pretty comfortable going like a Vele and Monangai combo this week. Thank you. Moses Andrade says, PPR, need 2 wide receivers and 2 flex. We have Jaden Higgins, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Chris Godwin, Alec Pierce, and Chris Rodriguez. Okay, so of these availables, which again, pretty decent options here, I have no interest in Keenan Allen. I really have no interest in Jaden Higgins here. So I think my positional kind of construction of this roster ends up being Alec Pierce, DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, and Chris Rodriguez. Those are the 4 that I start. Tim Schwartz, 223, sends in a follow-up. Says, set my lineup. I already played Dak Prescott and Javonte Williams. Okay. They went solid. I mean, Dak Prescott, 4 point per passing touchdown league, had like 18 points. Javonte had, if I'm not mistaken, a touchdown. So pretty decent. I needed 2 wide receivers, 1 running back, 2 flex, and a defense. We have Jonathan Taylor, auto start. So that's your running back. Puka, Nico, those are your starting wide receivers. Boom. And then we need 2 flex. Okay. So we have Terry McLaurin. We have Derrick Henry. Oh, brother. Okay. Chris Godwin, Michael Wilson, oh, goodness. Okay, yeah. So in your flex position, I'm playing Derrick Henry and Michael Wilson. And then in the defensive category, I'm playing the Buccaneers. Thank you. So again, from top to bottom, your starting lineup should look like Dak Prescott, Javonte Williams, Jonathan Taylor, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, Derrick Henry, Michael Wilson, and the Buccaneers defense. Thank you. Mr. Hockeyman says, what would be your top defensive stash for next week? 49ers, 100%. Not even close. I'm playing the 49ers defense against the Tennessee Titans. If I'm looking towards other potential options, let me go look at the NFL Week 15 schedule. I can pull that up right now. Or sorry, not Week 14, I need Week 15, excuse me. If I look at the upcoming schedule ahead, I think there is a conversation to be had to where you might want to be playing. Like we could be interested in playing Chicago's defense against Cleveland. I think that's a decent option as a waiver wire pickup. Again, we're still prioritizing San Francisco playing against Tennessee. I think that's a must. So that's for sure. Now, in regards to some other available options here, we could play Dallas against Minnesota if, JJ McCarthy comes out here and absolutely lays an egg on Sunday against Washington. In terms of other available streaming options at defense, if somehow Jacksonville's still available, I'm assuming they're not because they have been started like week over week since the Charger game. If they were still available, I'd like the idea of playing them against the Jets. I think the second best option outside of playing the 49ers next week is technically the Eagles against the Raiders. Outside of those options, yeah. So it'd probably go like 49ers, Eagles, maybe if the Jaguars are available. Otherwise, we pivot to potentially playing the Bears, the Dallas Cowboys, maybe Tampa against Atlanta. I think those are the great options out there. Maybe if you're super desperate, Miami for another week here against Pittsburgh's offense could be a potential play there. But yeah, those are my immediate suggestions there. Hockey Man, thank you. Easy E sends in a question. Easy, what's up? Says Andrew, questions in the chat. I'm in first. Congratulations, brother. Says, sup, Andrew, my man. In a 3 wide receiver league, I have JSN, Emeka Ibuka, Mike Evans, Devon Vele, Christian Watson, AD Mitchell. What wide receivers besides JSN am I keeping for the playoffs? Gonna pick up New Orleans or Tampa Bay defense for week 16 and running back. Okay, hold up. 3 wide receiver league. JSN, Emeka Ibuka, Mike Evans. Okay, so we've got solid wide receiver help here. What wide receivers besides JSN are we keeping for the playoffs? Okay, so for sure, Emeka Ibuka has to be kept. I think Evans has to be kept. I think Christian Watson has to be kept, and I think AD Mitchell has to be kept. I think Vele is your like contingent, like kind of throwaway in this circumstance, because in the event in which, again, Evans is active, I think Emeka Ibuka technically gets better because I think he takes on lesser coverage of double, with the safety over the top, always having to babysit him. So I think them alongside of Christian Watson are your 4 best. I think AD Mitchell could be a potential kind of cut if Garrett Wilson returns. Otherwise, I think he is the better option over Vele. So in the event in which you were going to cut a wide receiver in order to pick up a defense, Vele is your cut man. For week 16, let me look at week 16 schedule, see what Tampa Bay is playing and New Orleans is playing. So New Orleans plays up against in week 16 the Jets, which is not bad. But Tampa Bay gets to take on, where's their logo? Carolina. I'd feel a little bit more comfortable rolling with Tampa Bay's defense there and dropping Vele. Thank you. Appreciate it, Easy. All right, the only way is rugby. Sends it a question. Says, Quirky, must win. Must win. Says, Schultz, Barner, TJ, or waivers. Schultz, 100%. It's got to be Schultz. Far too consistent. Mason Taylor, no. It's got to be Schultz. Also, have to play Tootin, so balance. Oof, yeah. I have Jacobs, J-Jet, Rashi, Ladborough. Yeah, Schultz is your answer, and if you have to play Tootin, fingers crossed he steals a goal line touchdown, which he's definitely capable of, brother. Ignacio sends it a question, says, hey, Chief, T-Law or Lamar? I'd go with Lamar there, genuinely. Gadsden or Waller, I prefer as of right now, assuming it's a full PPR league, it's Gadsden. If it's a half PPR or standard scoring format, I probably lean towards Waller and fingers crossed for a touchdown. Lastly, Vidal, Woody, and Vele, and Flowers for, I need an RB2 and a flex. Okay, so of those available, I'd rather play Woody Marks as my RB2, and then Vidal would only ever play if I was in a far more desperate situation. I believe we're going to see Hampton play on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not really sure if Vidal can be started in this case. It says Omarion Hampton will play on Monday. Yeah, I mean, it's clear there. So ultimately, if it's me and we're playing in a full PPR, I probably go Woody and I pair him up alongside of most likely. Do I want to? I think I probably roll with Vele and Woody there. Thank you. Raymond T, 4054 says questions in the chat. Thank you. Says, hey, Andrew, Shuck or Stroud? I would rather play Stroud this week. And which defense, Washington, Indy, or Kansas City? I would prefer to play Washington's defense against J.J. McCarthy. Thank you. Nels sends it a question. So Nels Santiago, brother, I already know. Trust me. Anytime I see Nels anywhere in my life, I know it's you. So don't even worry about it. Hey, bro, PPR, need to Hampton, Andrews, or Moore. I would prefer as of this week. That's actually a tough one. I think in this circumstance, DJ Moore has to play. Am I playing Hampton or Andrews, though? Man, that's tough. I probably play Hampton there. I go Hampton and DJ Moore. Thank you. Andrew Myers, 704, says full PPR pick 3. T, Devontae, Michael Wilson, Emeka, Nico, BTJ. Okay, Michael Wilson's number 1. Nico Collins is number 2. T. Higgins is number 3. If the weather tomorrow morning is a disaster, we would pivot to Devontae Smith. So for right now, it's Nico, Michael Wilson, and T. Higgins. Otherwise, if weather in Buffalo is a disaster, you play Devontae Smith over T. Higgins. Thank you. Vanilla Coke says, hey, sup, Andrew? Lamar or Tyrod? I'd rather play Lamar. Lamar has me traumatized. Brother, I hear you. Personally, okay, this is the reality, right? Whenever I have these numbers projected, I understand that past performance certainly does lead to us potentially predicting the future, but Lamar got screwed last week, genuinely. The likely fumble, the OPI that I've seen far more egregious plays lead to a non-call, and then of course the tipped pass to the line of scrimmage that should have been a Mark Andrews touchdown. Like, I've seen a lot of potential performances this season where players have gotten screwed over in those kind of circumstances, but I have to play Lamar. I have to. He's on my team. I have to play him. Nickel says, in another league, C-Rod over Genty. If it's a full PPR, I'm going to play Genty. The thing about C-Rod is that like he's super dependent on touchdowns. I know he's scored 4 in the last 6, but again, there's been some off weeks in which he doesn't score, which is my primary concern there. So I probably still play Genty there, even in a half. But maybe in a standard league, I'd go with C-Rod there, just off of yardage and touchdown potential alone. Adam Amar, what's up? Says, where are the targets going to in Atlanta? Any stash? Yeah, look, as of right now, David Sills have kind of been the only target opportunity getter outside of Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson. Darnell Mooney has done nothing. Sills has been the guy, and he scored a touchdown in each of the last 2 weeks. So in the event in which you're looking theoretically for a play within kind of that, I guess that organization, which I wouldn't really bank on them being like the greatest play. As of right now, in terms of like, I'm going to spot start it. But in the case of which you're like super deep league desperate, I guess you could lean in the direction of David Sills. I mean, again, I don't love it. Outside of that, I mean, don't really expect for anything else to happen. They're throwing to a bunch of no names, like genuinely no names. So I would anticipate that to continue to happen. The primary of the receptions, though, are going towards Kyle Pitts and Bijan. Mooney will catch like 2 or 3 if he's lucky. David Sills will catch 2 or 3 if he's lucky. Alrighty, let's see here. After that question from Adam, we had a question from Rockout. It says PPR 1 flex, Buka, Olave, Marks, C-Rod. In the full PPR flex, I have to play Olave there. Thank you. Catacomb Kid, what's up? Catacomb, hope you're doing well. It says Hampton, Sutton, Vidal, Monangai flex in a half PPR. Okay, so look, as of this moment in a half PPR scoring format at running back, the question is, am I willing to risk it with Omarion Hampton or just take the content, the potential production that I'm going to be guaranteed out of Monangai, which at the moment, I probably just take the points I'm going to get with Monangai because I think he'll just continue what he's done. So I'll take like the 10 points I'm going to get here. I think Cortland Sutton could very easily outscore that. But I think, again, if we're just looking for like, I need a safe, solid flex that also himself has upside, I think Monangai is your answer. Blazin 540 sends it a question. It says super flex, pick 2. Daniels, Lamar, Trevor Lawrence. I'd play Daniels and Lamar. Pick 3 between Michael Wilson, Cortland Sutton, Terry McLaurin, and A.D. Mitchell. I would play Michael Wilson. I would play Scary Terry. Am I playing A.D. Mitchell or am I playing Cortland Sutton? Earlier this week, I was of the opinion that it should be Cortland Sutton. I think it might just be A.D. Mitchell here. Because of the lack of opportunity that Sutton gets, I think your answer is probably Wilson, Scary Terry, and A.D. Mitchell. User says full PPR. Opponent has Michael Wilson and McBride. Would it be smart to play Brissett over Daniels? In that case, you could, but my only concern is, let's say you're in the event in which Michael Wilson and McBride both go for 100 receiving yards and 10 receptions, okay? And there's no touchdown scored from Brissett. You're cooked then, right? Both these players can effectively isolated be relevant in the absence of touchdowns off of receptions and yardage. They could both score 20 points, and Brissett comes away with legitimately less than 10 points. He could. So ultimately, if we're just trying to go after touchdowns and the potential of a higher scoring potential, I think Jaden Daniels is your answer. If you just want to play it safe, Brissett has been a stud for, I mean, again, I mentioned it earlier this week. He's been a top 5 quarterback since he's taken over the starting quarterback position for the Arizona Cardinals for fantasy purposes. So if you wanted to keep him in your lineup, I have no problem with that at all. But personally, I'm going to have Daniels ranked higher. All right, my YouTube chat just crashed there. Let me just go ahead and refresh my YouTube link here. We've been here for about an hour, and let's see, how long have we been here for? An hour and 15 minutes. Again, I appreciate y'all coming through, sending in those super chats to support the channel. Again, before we close out today's episode, as soon as I get to answering all these questions, I will put together a couple plays via Betr, just so we're all on the same page as to where I'm going tomorrow. Again, Michael Wilson is going to be a part of a lot of those plays that I put together tomorrow, because again, there's a lot of potential for upside there in the absence of Dortch and effectively Marvin Harrison. We had a question that came in from Rockout, who says, do I pivot off of McPherson based on whether we could? Yeah. In the event in which like a Kaimi Fairbairn's available, I'd go there in that direction. Thank you. Otherwise, I think another couple available kicker options I could suggest to you. Again, if Kaimi Fairbairn, Tyler Loop, Cameron Dicker, Riley Patterson, Cam Little, Chase McLaughlin, Cairo Santos, if those are available, I'd be pretty happy to pivot there, but I would hold on to that until tomorrow morning, just in case the weather is not as bad as we think. All right, Andrew Meyer, 704, says, if no Kincaid, who? Ertz, Schultz, Fannin, Hawkinson, Waller, or Juwan Johnson? Ertz. In the event in which Kincaid is out, you play Ertz. Don Ray sends it a question, says, half PPR, start Mahomes, Shaq Tua, or JJ McCarthy week 14. I'm playing Mahomes there. Thank you. Drewski15 says, thanks for all the help questions in the chat. Thank you, sir. All right, it says full PPR, Bam Knight or Alec Pierce in a flex. Wow, that's a really tough one. Oh, man. Shit. Okay, let me think about this, because Bam Knight has definitely been a touchdown hound for the last couple weeks here, but so is Alec Pierce. So there is a potential in which like both could be just as relevant as one another. Where do I have Alec Pierce ranked full PPR comparatively? Alec, where's Bam Knight? Yeah, okay, so as of right now, from Thursday's rankings, again, I haven't really done much of a potential correction to them. I have, in the absence of Greg Dortch, it'll probably lead to more. I think personally, I feel a little bit more comfortable in a full PPR rolling Pierce, but I think it's going to be close. I think they'll probably be within the same tier of player, but right now I'll probably go in the direction of playing Alec Pierce there against Jacksonville. Says, sup, brother, full PPR, couple questions. Terry or Ibuka? I would prefer to play Terry McLaurin. Running back, Marks, Charbonnet, or Neal? As of those available options, I probably end up rolling Sharps. In another league, Bam Knight, Michael Carter, or Alec Pierce, I'd roll with Alec Pierce in this circumstance. Lastly, Miami, Kansas City, or Jacksonville defense, I'd roll with Miami there. Thank you. Jerome Hill says, didn't get Strange, drop T. Johnson for Waller. Yeah, I'm okay going and dropping Theo Johnson in order to pick up Waller because you weren't able to get Bretton Strange for the rest of the season. That works for me. Mitch Elijah sends it a question. Says, full PPR, one flex, Pierce, Woody, Godwin, Burden. I'm playing Alec Pierce for sure. Thank you. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, I want to go ahead and share a couple of the plays that we made yesterday via our Hidden Gems video. If you guys haven't checked out the Hidden Gems video, at the end of the video, I did end up putting a couple plays via Betr together. Again, if you guys want my Sunday morning rankings, you can check out Betr. Again, by signing up today using code Andrew, making that first time deposit minimum of $10, then making a first time play within a real cash play, picking more or less on 2-player statistics. You'll be eligible to, of course, get those rankings. Additionally, for those of you guys who sign up today using code Andrew, you get a free $10. So all you have to do is make sure you're eligible based on the map to the right side of the screen. So in regards to the plays that we made yesterday that I want to go ahead and share, and I'll go ahead and talk them over with you guys right now. Let's go ahead and let's pop that up on screen right here. So a couple of plays that we made for this weekend. Michael Wilson going more than 5.5 receptions. That's just, in my opinion, a very solid play. He's had 10 plus receptions in both of the games this season without Marvin Harrison in the lineup. And on top of it, we have no Greg Dortch. So the opportunity should be in his direction. Receptions should be an automatic. Jackson Smith-Njigba more than 18.5 fantasy points in a full PPR. He has done that in 75% of the games this season, 9 of the last 12. But over the course of the most recent games in terms of history, if we look at Jackson Smith in a full, actually, let's go full PPR. Jackson Smith. Over the course of the last couple games, he's been able to surpass that number in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the last 8 games. So far more consistency, and taking on Atlanta should be an automatic. And then, of course, we have Bucky Irving taking on this defense. Oh, you know what's funny? I don't actually have this structured properly. I need to expand that window. 1 second. There it is. There it is. Okay. Sorry about that. Bucky Irving, more than 13.5 fantasy points. I talked about it yesterday, and let me actually go pull up the stats, because in games in which he has played 50% of the snaps or more, he has a 100% rate of surpassing that number in his career. It's pretty crazy, the level of success that he finds. And now that you're taking on New Orleans, the assumption would be, yeah, okay, he should be able to continue that level of success. So if we travel back to even just this season, games 50+% of the snaps, which is every game he's played, he's surpassed that number 5 out of 5 times. Last season, 50% of the snaps, 6 games, every single game more than 13.5 full PPR fantasy points. But over the course of his career of late, he has been able to surpass this number in 14 of the last 16 games he has played. If you include the playoffs, that's 15 of the last 17 games he has played. So that's my number one play of the week. It's a 6x 50 to make 300. Then we put together a play of Brenton Strange and Dalton Kincaid in regards to the overall potential of their success. The reason why I'm going in this direction is because they both have incredible matchups. I don't know for sure if Kincaid is going to play, so we'll wait and see. But again, over the course of this season, in the last 6 games, the Bengals have allowed 10, 10, 5, 7, 7, and 11 receptions to opposing tight ends. We're just going more than 2.5. We're not asking for much here. And then we have the potential of Brenton Strange, who again has been playing great football, and additionally taking on the Colts defense, who has allowed 9, 7, 10, 6, and 7 receptions to opposing tight ends in the last 6 games. We're just asking for 4 receptions. We're not asking for much. And then the final play of the week was our hidden gems players, the potential of guys like Luther Burden going more than 2.5 receptions. He has done so every single game in the last 4 weeks. So why not with Rome Odunze out? Then we have Chris Godwin going more than 39.5 receiving yards. He had more yards after the catch last week than 39.5. And then we have Chris Rodriguez going more than 38.5 rushing yards over the course of this season in the last, 9 games. This Minnesota Vikings defense, let me actually find the full stat here. All right, here it is. So in its glory, over the course of the last 9 games, the Minnesota Vikings have allowed 100+ rushing yards to opposing running backs in 7 of those 9 games. So they've allowed it against Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Los Angeles, Baltimore, Chicago, Green Bay, Seattle. And in 6 of those 7 games where they've allowed 100+ rushing yards to opposing running backs, 1 touchdown minimum. Expect for a pretty good week here for the likes of a Chris Rodriguez. But yeah, so that is some of the plays that I'm making this weekend. Again, I'll probably have some more plays to share tomorrow morning. Again, the potential of going and making more plays with someone like Michael Wilson. I'm curious if they've adjusted his number. Yeah, so since yesterday, the numbers have gone up. Like now it's not like even money for 5.5 receptions. And also additionally, it's not even like this was at 65.5 yesterday or 67.5. Again, I'll still take it at that number ultimately. I think Devontae Adams in a touchdown should be like an automatic. I mean, what are we talking about here? If we're expected to be 8.5 point favorites, who else is going to score a touchdown in this offense? So the potential of like taking like more than a touchdown for Devontae Adams seems pretty relevant in this circumstance. If we're looking for potential other plays, I'm curious where they have like Lamar Jackson in terms of 1 passing touchdown. Yeah, it's an automatic. Okay. I thought I was going to be able to pull one over on them, but not really the case this week. Looking at some other plays, I think Judkins is an intriguing one, depending on what his fantasy points are at. Yeah, they haven't updated it yet. I wanted to take him on fantasy points, but it wasn't potentially available yesterday. Still isn't as of this moment. So again, we'll keep an eye on that. But anyway, as of right now, these are some of the plays. Hopefully you guys can go ahead and check that out if you guys are interested. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and continue to answer questions right now. So we'll go ahead and transition back to the live stream right now. Thank you very much. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and let's get back into this chat. We had a question from Carter Willis. Carter, thank you very much, my man. Appreciate it. Carter says, pick 2, Neil Franklin, A.D. Mitchell, Alec Pierce, Vele, or Chris Rodriguez. In a full PPR, I would go with A.D. Mitchell and Alec Pierce. In a half PPR, I may just play Pierce and Rodriguez. Yeah, that's probably what I would do in a half PPR. Otherwise, full PPR, I'll play both these wide receivers. Thank you very much, Carter. All right, let's see. We have Sharingan, who says, 2 questions below. Thanks for the help, Angie. No problem, my man. Says, do you have any playoff defensive rankings? As of right now, I just have a couple suggestions. As for outright rankings in terms of like top to bottom, which am I like suggesting outright? No, I don't. Because again, anything can change week over week in regards to the potential of the fantasy playoffs. A potential injury or a potential player returning could shift any single matchup. So I can't objectively say, oh yeah, this is going to be the best defense every week henceforth for the next 3 weeks. I can make that claim, but I can't stick by it blindly because I think it's going to shift. But when I look at weeks 15 through 17 and I look at the upcoming schedule ahead, in terms of defenses that are not rostered in very many leagues, I think, again, Tampa Bay has to be one that we need to address and pick up. They're taking on Atlanta, Carolina, and Miami. I think those are all 3 incredibly advantageous matchups as Tampa Bay is trying to make the playoffs. Additionally, on top of it, in terms of other potential defensive pickups from relevant defenses, I think there could be an argument made. I mean, I think it depends. It's tough. Like, there could be an argument made that Cincinnati's defense turns it around. If they show up this week and show out against the Bills, I might have an inkling to play them against Baltimore again, Miami, and in Arizona, genuinely, because Burrow has somehow elevated the team. Other potential options that I could consider, Chicago's defense as a potential pickup in that circumstance. In terms of anything else off the top of this list, again, there isn't really much out there that I look at and think to myself, unless we're talking about Houston or Seattle, like there isn't something like that to where it's like an automatic. I would say like if somehow, some way Philadelphia is out there, I don't mind playing them week 15, 16. But yeah, I think those are the primaries. I think you could go with New Orleans technically, considering they take on Carolina, New York Jets, Tennessee, but it's New Orleans. They could shit the bed any week, So for right now, that's my only thought process. It says Brissett or Purdy. Are we talking about fantasy playoffs? Okay, Brissett has Houston, Atlanta, and Cincy. I don't like Houston. I would rather play Purdy in week 15. And if I have to pick between the two, and if I have to stick with them weeks 15 through 16 or 17, then I would rather have Purdy for the fantasy playoffs because I don't want to play Brissett against Houston. Thank you. Alrighty, let's go ahead. I'm going to answer a couple questions via the live chat, then we're going to head out. Again, I appreciate y'all coming through. We'll be back tomorrow morning starting at 7 a.m. PST. It says Patriots defense. Yeah, but that's under the assumption that they're not already rostered in your league. Like, I believe right now the Patriots defense have a pretty high rostership percentage. I know that of course, they're on a bye week here, but I'm going to assume that they weren't dropped. But let me just go ahead and let me just cross-reference that. Yeah, New England's defense as of right now in Sleeper is still rostered in 61% of leagues. So I'm going to assume that they'll probably be already rostered in your league, considering like the outlier of the 40% is leagues that just don't even play with defenses or just nobody's even paying attention anymore. Okay, let's see here. Zeus sends out a question. Says, my guy, questions in the chat. Thank you, Zeus. Appreciate it. Says PPR start running back, wide receiver flex, and tight end. Okay. Tootin, Monungai, Addison, Pierce, AD Mitchell, Vele, Waller Schultz. RB's Monungai. Wide receivers, AD Mitchell. Actually, no, excuse me. Yeah, it's between the two of them. I'm going to play both Pierce and AD Mitchell, so that doesn't even matter. And I'm also going to play Vele. So yeah, I would go with Monungai, Pierce, AD Mitchell, Vele, and Schultz. Those are your best options out of, if we need to start 5 players in a full PPR, those are the way which I go about it, Zeus. Thank you. 2 quarterbacks, 6 point per passing touchdown. Hurts, Daniels, Brissett, Indiana Jones. As of right now, I know we've answered this question earlier this week, and I will go ahead and I'll readdress it. As of this moment, considering Greg Dortch going out, I think we may just go back to Daniel. Instead of playing Brissett and Daniels, at this point, I think I might just pivot back to playing Hurts and Daniels in this case. I think that's a little bit of a safer position in that circumstance, Swolid. So I'll go there. Again, earlier this week, I do remember telling you playing Brissett and Daniels, but now with the relevant information that has been presented for the Arizona Cardinals situation, I think Hurts and Daniels is the appropriate play. Kevin says, need a defense, Baltimore versus Pittsburgh. What is this? Home or Tennessee versus Cleveland? I would rather play Baltimore. Genuinely. Says Snow FC in Cleveland, yeah, there was supposed to be snow last week in Cleveland, but there didn't really end up being any. So I'm not going to really put any stock into that until I see it with my own eyes. I'd stick with Baltimore for now. Half PPR, Jacoby Myers or Chris Rodriguez, and Bonix or Brissett. I'd prefer to play Brissett. And then as for Chris Rodriguez and Jacoby Myers, I'd probably feel a little bit more comfortable going with Chris Rod there. If you told me that Sauce Gardner's out, maybe I just end up playing Myers there. But as of right now, I'd probably still play Chris Rod. Full PPR, I need to between Hunt, Hampton, and Marks. I mean, Hampton's tough. I think I probably just go Hampton and probably Marks in this circumstance. That's probably the way I go about it. King Record, what's up? Says Jaden or Darnold on Sunday. I'd rather play Jaden Daniels. Zeus sends in a follow-up. Thank you very much. The second question didn't show up. Or let me pull it up right now. Says half PPR, start 2 wide receivers and a tight end and a flex. Abuka, Godwin, Pierce, Rome, was that AD Mitchell, Strange, Juwan Johnson, Kincaid, Vidal. Okay, so 2 wide receivers. I believe that your best 2 plays are going to be in a half PPR scoring format. I would rather go Abuka and Pierce. And then at the tight end position, if Kincaid is available, I'd play him. Otherwise, I think your best play is probably Strange afterward. And considering the questionable nature of Kincaid, I think it's probably just smart to play Strange there. So let's just go Abuka, Pierce, and Strange in this circumstance, Zeus. Thank you, man. Appreciate it again. Let's see here. Corum, Tootin, or Algier? Look, that one's an interesting one. I think instead of half PPR league, it is a half PPR league. None of them are going to find any receiving utilization. I think that's an objective truth. So it just becomes a matter of like, who's got the highest likelihood of falling into the end zone, which over the course of the season, the objective answer between the 3 has technically been Algier. So I'd probably lean in that direction as my number 1. Then I go Corum 2 and then Tootin 3. TJ Money, what's up, man? So start 1, Justin Jefferson, Olave, Hampton. I'd play Olave there, genuinely. Raymond Brown says 3rd year in the playoffs. Thanks, Andrew. Hampton coming back considering rest of the season. Should I drop one of Dowdle, Henderson, or Harvey? Half PPR. Also, do I drop Loop for McLaughlin? I would still keep Loop. I think they're going to get bounced back this week, but if you wanted to swap, I don't mind the idea. I have them both ranked in my top 12 kickers this week. As for rest of season, I don't think I need to drop any of these options, though. If you had to drop one of these in order to have Hampton in your lineup, then technically speaking, your drop might end up being Dowdle, considering the Chuba Hubbard expansion of utilization this most recent game against the Rams. Otherwise, I don't want to drop anybody there if I have the choice. What defense to stream? Jacksonville, Miami was it in Washington or Kansas City or Los Angeles or any of the others? I have Jacksonville. They're on a heater. Yeah, look, as of right now, in terms of the best availables that you've mentioned in this circumstance, Miami, Jacksonville, Kansas City. Okay, so in comparison to... I need to go pull up my rankings from Thursday. 1 second here. So in comparison to where I had them structured, ranked this most recent Thursday, I would say... You don't have Cleveland available, do you? No. Okay, Washington, Yeah, I'm cool with you sticking with Jacksonville. That's fine by me. I don't have an issue with that. Aaron Jones or Terry, non-PPR. I'd probably go Aaron Jones there in non-PPR. When I'm in, need upside, Daniels or Stafford, I'd got to play Stafford there. Lamar or Stafford, got to play Stafford there. London is out. Should I start Addison, Jaden Higgins, and Vele are on the waivers? Should I get one of them? Honestly, yes, I would. I'd rather play Vele and I'd rather play Jaden Higgins in that order. Thank you. 2 questions, full PPR. I have way too many RBs. Christian McCaffrey, Hampton, Rico, Judkins, Bam, Neal, Tracy, Manungai. Who do I drop? Any for AD Mitchell or C-Rod? I mean, I think Neal ends up getting dropped for probably AD Mitchell if you need wide receiver help. Says, do I flex Strange AD for Sutton or Ibuka? I don't mind the idea in a full PPR of playing AD Mitchell over Sutton there. That works for me. Pipe Down says, PPR Superflex, start 2, Sutton, Debo, McLaurin, Myers, Tua. I think genuinely I probably end up playing both McLaurin and Debo here in a full PPR. Drop Gadsden or Dobbs for San Francisco defense. My other tight end is Andrews. I would drop Dobbs because of Jalen Reed's return. JD5 or Lamar Jackson, I'd probably play JD there. Cheers, Andrew. Please pick one wide receiver, one flex, one running back out of these available. I mean, looking at the group ahead, like in terms of your wide receivers, I'd probably play McLaurin over Ibuka. If I have an option of playing Charbonnet or Hampton or Mason, I'd probably end up just playing Charbonnet there and flexing Pitts in a full PPR capacity. That's probably the way in which I would go about it. All right, I'm going to answer a couple more of these super chats and we're going to head out. I appreciate y'all coming through. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. PST. All right, Kex is good. Says, half PPR, DJ Moore or C-Rod, flex for the number 1 seed. As of right now, I think in a half PPR scoring format, I'd prefer to play C-Rod there. Maxwell sends out a question, says, in a full PPR, 6 point per passing touchdown, pick one quarterback, Stroud, McCarthy, or Tyrod Taylor. In a 6 point per passing touchdown format, I think I'd still stick with what Tyrod Taylor could provide. I think Stroud is a close second, and I think McCarthy is third. Pick 2 wide receivers, Burden, Watson, DK, Alec Pierce. I would play Alec Pierce, and I would play Watson there. Thank you, Maxwell. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel. I'll be back tomorrow morning starting at 7 a.m. PST, but that's what we're going to call it today. Again, like I mentioned before, if you guys want my Sunday morning rankings at all positions, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, defense, and flex, for both half and full PPR, you can check out, of course, Betr. Signing up today using code Andrew, making that first-time deposit, and then making that first-time play will get you those rankings sent from my email directly to yours tomorrow morning. Outside of that, you can always go ahead and find my rankings via Patreon, and of course, ask me unlimited questions when I'm not live streaming here on the channel. So if you guys are interested in that, all those links are down in the description. I appreciate the support. We're going to go ahead and cue the double helix. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Peace.